Hello and welcome to the Bubbling Up Podcast, a show about the people and places of Hot Springs, South Dakota, and the Southern Black Hills. I'm your host, Justin Gosman, and this show is coordinated through the Hot Springs Area Chamber of Commerce. Bubble Up. The Cambridge Dictionary defines bubble up as to rise to the surface or to become obvious. And that's why this show came about. I want the stories behind our fascinating small South Dakota town to rise to the surface and be heard. Hot Springs, South Dakota, population 3,460 today, is a community in the southwestern corner of South Dakota, about 50 miles south of Mount Rushmore. Founded in 1890, we got our name from, you guessed it, naturally warm mineral springs that bubble up from underground. The stories seem endless, and it's my hope that this show will enlighten not only the fellow residents of and potential visitors to Hot Springs as to the intriguing history of our community, but also to its ongoing inner workings today, the stories behind our local businesses and nonprofit organizations and events, the voices that make a community what it is, and that are working to make it what it can be. I hope you'll join me on this journey. All right, Terry, thanks for sitting down.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Good. I'm glad to have you here this week on the Bubbling Up podcast. It's been an interesting couple weeks getting this thing off the ground, but it seems like people are enthusiastic about learning about everything that's going on in Hot Springs, and so I'm really excited to talk with you about everything you're involved with, from, of course, Ace Hardware, Fall River Fibers, and Chautauqua Artisans Market, and many of the other hats you wear. You're one of those people in the community that just kind of goes out and you're behind the scenes, and people like know that you're out there, but I think people are just like, oh, there she goes again. I wonder where she's off to. So tell us a little bit about you, about your family's from Hot Springs originally, or you're from Hot Springs originally, right?
Yep, I grew up here in Hot Springs, fourth generation business owner now here in town. My grandparents started the hardware store in '35 during the Depression, and then my parents bought it from them in the '70s, and my husband and I came back from Colorado and purchased it 11 years ago now. So
that is so cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of longevity in your family with so before it was Ace, I remember when I was a kid it was Coast to Coast, and then before that, what was it?
Well, Coast to Coast is what it was since my grandparents had it.
Oh wow!
It
I didn't realize
Coast
that
to
was.
Coast.
I didn't realize it was that long.
Somewhere in there, when my husband and I weren't living here, it was a True Value, but but Ace Hardware.
It is
Ace Hardware now.
It is Ace Hardware now. And one of the projects that you had going on down there that was a personal project for you for several years, which you've now spun out to its own business, was Fall River Fibers. How did you get into the fiber arts?
Well, I've been doing fiber arts things since I was about 5 years old.
Really?
But the spinning and weaving was something that I started doing about 25 years ago. Got interested in from seeing it done at Renaissance festivals.
Okay.
And just thought that the making of cloth with old-fashioned machinery was magical. So I got interested in it.
I did not know that. That is so cool. So how did that, obviously just your enthusiasm for it, but why specifically start it as a business venture?
When we came back and bought the hardware store, I wanted to find folks that were also interested in fiber arts, see who was in the community or in the region that was into that. So I started carrying some of the equipment and visiting with people. And then a few years ago, when I helped found the Artisans Market, there were 2 spots in the building that we were renting. And because I was going to need to be down there helping with that nonprofit venture quite a bit, it just made sense to put the shop down there so I could be right there.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd try the fiber shop on a little bigger scale.
Well,
Yep.
I mean, that I remember going into Ace, and it was towards the back, and you had an area. But now that you have your own storefront for Fall River Fibers, you're not only able to, showcase more, but you're also able to carry more. What are some of the fabrics that you carry that are unique to Fall River Fibers, or that you wouldn't typically think that you could find in the southwestern corner of South Dakota?
Well, I try to be pretty much a full-service fiber arts yarn shop.
Okay.
So I got a lot of different equipment for spinning and weaving, felting. That's a really hot topic now in the fiber arts world. Got everything for doing felting. I carry bison yarn that I have made at a couple of different small mills in Wyoming and North Dakota. And then I also have a couple of local yarns by Judy Cox, who raises llamas and does all her own hand spinning, hand dyeing, so those are available down there.
Wow.
And Marilyn Lucero, who you'll see working at the shop sometimes, and she's got Teeswater sheep and llama fibers. So we've got try to have local fiber artists work, finished work for sale as well.
Yeah. That's very cool. So then you mentioned the nonprofit venture Chautauqua Craftsman and the Chautauqua Artisans Market, which is the storefront. How did Chautauqua Craftsman come about? I know that it had been something that had been kind of in the works for a while. What initially spawned that idea?
Well, about 5 years ago, a group led by Brenda Gamache got a artisans co-op going. And they had a lot of the local people, some of whom we have now, were part of that. And it lasted for about 1.5 years. And there was a group from it that wanted to continue. And I had been interested in helping be part of a more education-based artisans group.
Right.
And so a few of the people from the past group and myself decided to continue it, but with more of an education focus in addition to the marketplace.
And that rolls right into with the education part. You do a lot of classes down there. What are some of the classes that you've had in the past, and what are the ones in the near future that you have got coming up, and what do you think have been the ones that people have really engaged with?
Well, the classes have been heavy on fiber arts because that's the people I have contact with and can bring about easiest.
Right.
But what we try to have is a wide range of sustainable living skills like soap making, candle making, blacksmithing. We'd be open to straw bale construction, anything we can do that would be life skills that might be taught, as well as fine arts and traditional crafts. Some of our most popular ones have been the weaving classes that I've taught. And then our paint and sip nights are very popular. Right now we need a paint and sip teacher. We always need teachers. We always need more artisans to be part of the marketplace. We are a nonprofit, 501c3 status.
Yes.
And we've got a lot of openings for more participants to come down and be part of that artisan group in the marketplace.
Nice. And I know on the website, which is chautauquacraftsman.org, right?
Yep.
I know that you've got a list on there of some of the different types of art that you either currently have or have featured in the past. And I mean, just going down the list, it's amazing what people would, because when most people the casual, non-artisan hears art, they think of your traditional. Mostly, a lot of people I think of painting and think of sculptures and
fine art,
tangible fine art things like that that are more common and more popular, I guess, more than anything. But it's interesting going through because things like photography, pottery, stained glass, jewelry, woodworking, metalwork. And then, of course, your more traditional stuff that people would consider painting, drawing, paper art. What have been kind of the most unique forms of art that have come through the doors down at Chautauqua Artisans Market?
Well, all of it's unique.
Well, it is.
It's handmade by our local people, local artisans. We've got some really one-of-a-kind metalwork that is made that's very edgy, and it's done out of anything found, barbed wire and gears and auto parts that make up this metal work. And it will maybe be just one single piece of any given thing. That
But isn't
one
that,
of a kind.
That's so South Dakota, though.
Yeah.
With stuff like barbed wire and metal pieces from vehicles, and that's one thing that I've always liked growing up in the Black Hills, is that we have this kind of artistic community underneath that takes parts of South Dakota culture and turns it into something that says something about our state and about the people that live there. And that's, to me, when I think about art in South Dakota and what, to me, looking at Chautauqua Artisans Market from the outside, I see a bunch of people that are trying to create art that people can take away for themselves a little bit of South Dakota, when they come to visit Hot Springs, or even if they live here, they can send to their families and say, this is part of, and it's maybe not something that's necessarily like a literal piece of South Dakota, in so much as, it's not just a selfie of you standing by Mount Rushmore, but it's something more in the spirit of, the state and of the people. What kind of inspires you to create what you create? What drives you to make the things you make? That's kind of big questions here.
Yeah, the big questions. Most recently, the last couple of years, really most of my creative energy is going to Chautauqua itself, trying to get that organization up and going and get the word out about it being an educational facility and a place for our local artisans to come together and have a marketplace to sell their goods and to showcase their work. And so I guess that's really my big project right now. I do some weaving still on the side, and I teach some classes and produce samples for the classes, but really the work for me right now is in trying to get this
keep it going
organization going.
No, but that's great. And you mentioned showcase. You also have regularly themed like galleries where artists can display their work. What are some of them that you've had? I know that you've had some painters. I think right now there's a teddy bear exhibit.
Yeah, for the holidays we've got Violet Inman's articulated animals, which most of them are bears. There's a few cats and other things in there, but they're mostly bears that she did along with her husband several years ago. I believe she had over 300 of them at one time that she had made.
Yeah.
But now there's about 30 or so showcased in the gallery, and that's the third component of our organization, is the marketplace, the education center, and then the gallery.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah.
So if people wanted to participate with Chautauqua Artisans Market, how would they get in touch with you? How would they find out, what to do?
They can take a look on our website, which is chautauquacraftsman.org. They can stop by the shop. There's usually somebody there Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 5 that can give them information, contract to take a look at. It's very simple to become one of our participants. We aren't members, I apologize. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit, so it's not a cooperative. We don't pay out dividends at the end of the year. We try to run on a shoestring so that the money that the artisans make off of their products go back to the artisans. And it's all volunteer board and volunteer run. We ask for artisans to work if they can. We're always looking for more artisans and craftspeople to be part of what we're doing. And they can also call 745-4684 and be put in touch with somebody that can visit with them about showing us their work and
Very nice.
Joining us.
And if people want to visit Chautauqua Artisans Market when they're in Hot Springs, what's the address?
Oh, that is 631 North River Street in
right
Hot
across
Springs.
from the depot.
Right.
Our visitor center, our summer
visitor.
visitor center for the Chamber of Commerce. I bet you guys get a ton of tourists in the summer.
We do. We get a lot of tourism. Yeah, we get a lot of tourists and a lot of local support. People stopping in a couple times a month to see what's new and what new things have come.
That's so fascinating, too, because it's always changing over. There's always new art coming
Every day.
in and out. Yeah.
Daily.
Which is great. So, I appreciate everything you're doing in the community, Terry,
Thanks.
and I know everyone else does as well. And we just wanted to, again, highlight more people from around the community who are just kind of doing that behind-the-scenes work that is so vital for what makes this town tick.
Well, thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.